Some of the best games in the world masterfully blend together their gameplay and narrative into an unforgettable experience. While some games pew pew kablam whoosh, and that's fine too. Sometimes I hear people say that a work had great ideas that were executed poorly, but Destructivator 2 is the opposite, a totally pedestrian idea executed very well. There are plenty of similar run-and-guns out there like Duck Game and Not a Hero, and Destructivator 2 doesn't do anything special to distinguish itself from them other than being, real good. Released in April 2020 by Pug Fugly Games, they got perhaps the most important thing about this kind of game right, that the movement and shooting feel satisfying and responsive. Acceleration, stopping time, jump parabola, air momentum, jump height, player size, attack style, speed, power. There are a surprising number of variables to a game with just 2 buttons, pew pew and boing boing. It should be obvious by now how small Mr. Destructivator is. There are plenty of games where this would mean he gets lost in the action. Dead Cells comes to mind with its particle vomit. This game, however, does 3 things to avert this. First is the restraint. Destroyed enemies and their bits have a very different look to active threats. Second is the effects of your attacks. When looking at a faraway enemy, you can track your own position by looking at your stream of bullets, and if an enemy attack enters the range of your muzzle flash, that makes a good last warning that you're about to take damage and need to get away. Finally, and quite simply, is the lime green jumpsuit you wear, which highly contrasts with the backgrounds, making you stand out. Without these measures, you risk the player losing track of where they are, leading to cheap hits, and this game is hard enough, and that would sour the play experience. And when I say hard enough, more casual gamers may want to stay away, because while I'm no expert at run and guns, the later levels were just a bit easier than Cuphead's late game, which is to say I game overed on every stage of the last world a couple levels 5 or more times. And I was playing on normal. The game offers 2 harder difficulties, but unless Contra is a walk in the park for you, you should probably at least do normal first and come back to the harder versions later. Even only tackling one difficulty, it took me about 5 hours to finish Destructivator 2, which, considering the lack of loading screens, cutscenes, fetch quests, backtracking, and other things that can eat up hours in other games, means this has a ton of content to pour through, and it encourages perfection with a rating system based on the number of hits you take. Despite all the positive things I've said, Destructivator 2's greatest weakness is also what made it so strong. Lacking any story or unique selling point like Cuphead's animation, most players won't make any sort of emotional connection to the game, which limits how good a game can be. But for being among the best of its kind, I give Destructivator 2 an 8 out of 10. And I'm itching for new games.